Let's say I want to perform more analysis of the income statement and I want to see how much these items like salaries, SG&A and all appear as a percentage of revenue. So I'll select the relevant items. So I want COGS, salaries, SG&A, insurance, depreciation, interest expense, tax expense, net income. So let's use a pie chart. Let me connect the cells. Salaries, SG&A, insurance, depreciation, interest expense, tax expense, the net income. We are still left to include other operating expense. So let's include it here. And now the sum is 440,000, which is the amount of revenues. Let's quickly convert everything as a percentage of revenue. Freeze the cell and drag it down. And as long as the sum is 100%, it means that we have done it correctly. Now, this is how we'll need to format the data set in order to make a pie chart out of it. Alright, now let's go back to our dashboard and here let's try to insert a pie chart. Let's include a 2D pie chart. This is where I want it. Let's select the data. Click on chart data range. Go to income statement and to the place where you have placed your data in the right format. Select all of it and remove amount. I just want to display this as a percentage of revenue in the form of a pie chart and press OK. And you see it has started to work. Of course, I'll need to work on it a little bit to make it more meaningful and more visually pleasing. So let me do this. So let's call it income statement items as a percentage of revenue. And we can also add data labels here, right? And format them as you please. And let's do a little more adjustment here. Now I have an idea as to how all the expenses as well as the net income appear as a percentage of revenue, giving me a better insight than the raw income statement that I had. I'll do the basic adjustment here. I don't want a line here, and that's it. Now let's pause for a moment and compare the utility of this dashboard with the income statement and the raw financials that we have. So here I know, okay, this is my income statement. This is how much my revenue is. This is how much my profit is. Then I know a couple of other things by looking at the combined balance sheet as well, right? However, what this visual dashboard allows me to do is visually analyze and visually consume the data included therein. So I know how net income, earnings before tax, operating income and gross profit stands in comparison with the revenue. I also know how the assets have changed over the year, and I also know what exactly is the revenue breakdown, right? Let's try to add a couple more visualizations here. Now let's say we want to do a similar pie chart analysis on the balance sheet items, right? So before that, let's complete the analysis of liabilities. Let's copy this. It'll save us from doing some of the formatting that we have to do here. Just change the data source. And now I'll select this entire thing. Click here and unselect all those things that you don't need. I don't need the blank cells. And create a dashboard out of it, right? So let's change the heading, analysis of liabilities and equity. And as you can see, this gives me an insight as to what has happened over the year. Add data labels as usual on the opening and the closing balance and adjust it a little as per your need. So here I'll reduce the size a little bit so that I can see both the numbers simultaneously, something like this. The exact dashboard, just to reiterate, will depend on the exact needs that you have. Let's say this is something I'm preparing for my CFO. Let's zoom it out a little and see what all I have included in here. So far, I have an analysis of income statement, of assets, of liabilities and equity. I'm also able to see and visualize and consume information related to how income statement items appear as a percentage of revenue. So the idea is I can keep on adding here the visual tools that are available to me. However, two interesting tools that are quite dynamic in nature and that allow us to change the kind of information that you want to see in a dashboard and makes the dashboard come alive are timeline tool and slicer. So let's see how does that work. So as mentioned here in the cash flow statement, I have the dates on which amounts have been received from customers, amount have been paid to suppliers, to employees, against SG&A expense, and so on and so forth. So I want to do a dynamic analysis on the dashboard of these cash flows and see in what month, what kind of cash balance I was able to generate or what kind of cash outflow I experienced. Now in order to do that, I first have to rely on a pivot chart. I'll insert a pivot chart. I'll select the data range, which is this. I'll select the entire data set here and press OK. I have the pivot table. What I want to see here, I want to see dates and I want to see the amount. So here, what I'm able to see with this pivot chart, I am able to see what happened in different months, right? And the sum total is here. Let's arrange it in a manner which is more meaningful for us. So here, what I'm able to see is the months during which cash payments were made and received and what exactly was the net impact. Now, let's try to add the timeline tool in here, right? So I go to the insert tab once again, click on timeline, select OK. Now, what does it mean? It allows me to change the pivot table as and when I required it. So because the data is also associated with the dates, so it'll allow me to analyze what happened to the cash flows in terms of the following dates of the associated month. Let's click on January and see what happens. Nothing happened in January, and let's confirm, yes, there was not even a single payment that was made or received in the month of January. Let's see what happened in February. A total outflow of 30. In March, total outflow of 40. In April, including the inflows and the outflows, the total sum of 58 was received in the business. In May, in June, in July, and I can do it for all the months. However, this particular tool allows me to do more than that. Let's say I want to see what happened during the first quarter. I can simply drag this and see what happened during the first quarter. Or I want to see what happened during the first 6 months. It allows me to do the same. I just want to see what happened during the second quarter. I'm allowed to do that. I want to see what happened during the third quarter, the last quarter. Let's look at the last quarter of the business. And here I have a net inflow of 90 in the month of November and an outflow of 67,000 in the month of December. Now, let's look at another tool called Slicer. For that, I'll use the same pivot table and I'll go to Insert, click on Slicer and select the output heads that I need. Let's say I want to see what happened in terms of cash flow amount during given months. It provides me with two windows which I selected. Let's arrange them simultaneously, one after the other, so that we can look at it in a better manner. Let's click on the month of February. It just shows one amount as negative 30,000. What does it mean? Let's go to the cash flow statement and let's see what happened during the month of February. There's one transaction where we paid to suppliers 30,000 and that's the only transaction we have. That means what Slicer is doing for us is spelling out or highlighting the amounts of cash flow, positive or negative, which took place during the given month. Now, based on the kind of underlying data, this tool could be a very effective way to include our dynamic tool in the dashboard. With these little visualization tools in place, let's try to give a proper format to our dashboard, something like this. And let's do a little rearrangement. We are ready to present our data in a visual manner for the stakeholders concerned.